How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. And we just finished up Episode 5, or at least the main events of Episode 5. The game has been suspended. Whatever that means. I'm pretty much just using the terminology that was brought up in the credits, or the ending, whatever you want to call it. But usually we just have a list of deaths, you know? A list of people and when they died, how they died, maybe. This one was done a little different, so very different game that was pretty much presented to us here in Episode 5. Overall, this episode was different for a lot of reasons, but I've brought this up before. All the episodes are different in their own ways. This one is a standout because it's our way of entering into the answer route, or the answer arc, if you will, and yeah, I don't think anything has really been answered yet, but if anything, there's different ways that we can maybe approach some of the mysteries that have been brought up so far. And one of the things I will do is go back after we are fully done with Episode 5 here, with the tea party and the other scenario. I'll actually go back and review events, especially from Episode 1. I feel like that will be a really helpful one. 2, definitely. 3, yeah. 4, I don't even know if I want to touch 4 again, but obviously I'm going to go back, but I'll talk more about that once we're fully done with Episode 5. We are not entering the main event of Episode 5 or reloading or anything like that. We are entering the tea party for Episode 5. And I was told that the tea party here is pretty well, you know, length, I guess. It's not too crazy, but the scenario after is a bit of a long one.
Erika, ドラノール。
はい、我が主。お呼びですか？
あなたたちは引き続きこのかけらにとどまり、残る第1から第4のゲームすべてを解明しなさい。もはや魔女幻想を主張する哀れなかりそめ魔女は存在しない。むき出しの真実を徹底的に暴いてやりなさい。
お任せを、我が主。このフルドエリカに解けぬ謎はありません。
So they're going to try and find solutions that just kind of benefit them, not necessarily, you know, the actual truth. But then again, it brings into that whole discussion of what is the truth and all
そ
that.
れでこそ私の駒、私の分身だわ。
Bernka still wore a massive and horrible smile, which Erika shared. Beatrice's illusion of the witch would disappear, and the results in all of the previous games would be painted over. It had been crushed in every way possible, and only the naked truth remained. Such a weak truth was no better than fish on the chopping board for Erika.
過去の4つのゲームはすべて
They're just gonna paint her as the culprit in all of them.
ナツヒの犯行とそのイレギュラーで説明可能です。もはやベアトリーチェなる魔女の犯行とは二度と語らせません。直ちに編纂に入り、極上の物語を献上してご覧に入れます。
ベアとの魔女伝説はひとかけらも残してはダメよ。使用人たちの間の噂、不可解な出来事をそうであるかのように語る空気、金蔵の幻想と連動した魔女幻想、すべて完全に処分しなさい。
無論です。直ちに着手いたします。現在家具たちの身柄を拘束、よりしろの特定を急いでいます。
The Seven Sisters of Purgatory had already been taken into custody. Those noisy sisters who had served Beato now faced nothing but denial. What sort of illusion were they based upon that allowed them to manifest? Everything would be exposed and denied.
アイゼルネ・ヨングフラワー、すでに調査を開始しております。
Okay, I heard her say that name. So it's Eiserne. Is it Huangfrau? I'm gonna go with, or is it Zhongfrau? I'd probably go with the former.
最新の調査結果では、1960年代にニューヨーク近隣で製造された可能性が濃厚です。すでに補佐官が現地入りしております。
1960年代煉獄の七姉妹はメイドイン USA？
USA, baby. United States of America.
ソロモン王に連なる千年の魔女に仕える家具とか威張っておきながらとんだまがいものじゃない。何者なの？
報告によればイミテーションを売りつけて高額詐欺を働く集団があるとか。
騙された富豪が同様に曰く月を語って転売するためマリア間で偽られ神格化された可能性がある。裏付けと詳細特定を急がせています。
その界隈では後宮金蔵はどんなパチモノにも大金を払う乗客だったとか。
それが煉獄の七姉妹の正体？おかしいわ。ベアとの魔女幻想らしいとんだまがいものだわ。
7つの大罪を語る分際でイミテーションの土産物風情だったわけです。まあ私も初めて見た時からいかがわしい土産物屋で売ってる文鎮に過ぎないとは思ってたわけですが。
文鎮。その真実はもう七姉妹には突きつけた？
いいえ、まだです。
あいつらまだ自分たちは1000年以上前に偉大なる魔術師によって生み出されたとか本気で信じてやがります。早く完璧な証拠と真実を突きつけ、自分たちが原価30ドルにも満たない文鎮風情であることを思い知らせてやりたいです。
Wow. Hey, $30 to get a steak? I'm assuming they're talking about the steaks themselves, or whatever the sisters are supposed to be based off of, personality and appearance-wise.
その時どんな顔を見せて絶望するのかしら。
Hey, $30. That's pretty good if I want a little
楽しみ
souvenir.
だわ。その際には私を呼びなさい。最高の紅茶と梅干しを持って鑑賞に来るわ。
Beato's illusion of the witch had already been penetrated, and it's been proven that everything was simply the result of human delusions. What kind of delusions created them, and what caused these in the first place, excuse me? When the answers were proven perfectly and shoved in the faces of those concerned, the illusion would vanish and be completely annihilated. This is what they meant by execution.
処刑は見せ物ではありません。原則非公開です。
元老院議員であらせられる大ベルンカステル教による大本院が職務を適正に執行しているかの視察です。異端審問官風情が拒否する気ですか？
ええ、そうよ。ドラノールたちが職務を正規の手順で遂行するかどうか、私は元老院を代表して視察するだけよ。
ワルギリア、ロノウェ、ガープたちも現在拘束へ向けて準備中です。シエスタ姉妹近衛隊が捜索に当たっています。無論その後にベアトリーチェに関わった3人についても拘束処刑します。
Yeah, it's a good thing the Chester sisters chose this side for this episode, huh?
ドラノール、シエスタ姉妹の正体は？
高い確率で犯行に用いた凶器がより代ではないかとガートルード上級補佐官が専従チームを結成。全件を調査中です。
シエスタ姉妹の処刑も楽しみです。一人ずつまとめて一度に。
茶葉の缶を中身全部ポットに入れるバカはいないわ。一さじずつゆっくり味わわなくちゃ。
まったくです。処刑は連日行いましょう。家具たちに魔女たちに一人ずつ連日の処刑賞を必ずやお届けします。
素敵じゃない。何しろずいぶんの人数がいるからね。2週間くらいはたっぷり楽しめそうじゃない。誰から処刑するか、その順序を彼らに決めさせるとか。処刑概念についても最高の提案をするように。古今東西のあらゆる処刑を毎日楽しみたいわ。
処刑は 大法院規定の方法でと規則があります。
お任せを我が主。必ずや魅力的な処刑賞を準備いたします。
最低でも四つ咲き系くらいにはなさいよ。
無論です。ヨーロッパ各国からアジア各国まで、東西のあらゆる王国が採用した国王への反逆罪にのみ適用される各国最高の処刑を列挙してご覧に入れます。
私からも処刑方法を提案したいわ。それに悩むことは寝苦しい夜の最高の清涼剤だからアイデアを練って今度手紙で送るわ。
Yeah, they're really ignoring Delanor here.
かしこまりました。
They're kind of in their own little world right
で
now.
はベルンカ
In
ステ
their
ル
very
式の
strange
最後の
bliss.
フィナーレに全ての幻想を打ち破り、ベアとの魔法体系を完全に打破した最後の最後にて、ベアトリーチェの処刑にて我が主の望まれる最高の処刑を。
ありがとうエリカ。あなたのおかげで私は病の辛さを当分の間忘れることができそうだわ。
Illness. Illness through boredom?
あなたは最高だわ。私の駒、私の分身、そして私の可愛い娘。
Oh, wow.
もう
She really likes her right now.
我が主。
エリカ、あなたに栄誉と褒美を与えるわ。ベアトの最大の象徴であるあの大広間の肖像が、あれを外して叩き割り、その薪にてケーキを
What the
焼いて食べなさい。
How are you supposed to bake a portrait?
そして残った額縁にあなたの肖像画を掲げることを許すわ。
Very interesting.
ありがとうございます。最高の栄誉です。
ベアトリーチェの名前と痕跡のすべての抹殺、抹消、それがすべて終わるまでの間、あなたにこの閉じられたロッケン島の主となることを命じるわ。奇跡の魔女ベルンカステルの名において、その日まであなたに魔女の位を与えることを宣言するわ。これよりあなたは真実の魔女エリカを名乗りなさい。
Oh, fun.
真実の魔女。
A new witch to
あ
deal
りが
with.
とうございます。我が主、この栄誉に恥じぬ一層の働きを誓います。
But as we've, really been seeing ever since her humiliation in the study, she's kind of gone, full force, straight up pushing P all the way to make sure that she is never in that position again. And she's pulling out all the stops really now. And we've really seen that through her expressions, through her desperation. All for Bernkastil at the very end. Even though she was nothing more than a piece, she was being granted the honor of calling herself a witch like her master, if only for a brief stretch of time. Erika was so moved that her actions had been acknowledged in this greatest form that she trembled.
ドラノールは引き続きエリカを補佐し、その進捗を私に報告しなさい。
良いです。
ところで、ラムダはどこ？
あちらにおられます。
From the guest seating on the second floor, she pointed downwards. Lambda Delta could be seen beneath Battler, who hung there dead and pierced by the red longsword. He's just, I guess, permanently hanging here.
Ushiromiya バトラか。面白い男だったわ。そしてもっと面白くなれたかもしれないのに。残念ね。
見事な死に様じゃない。エリカ、このバトラの亡骸は屋敷の大広間に飾るといいわ。次に私がこのかけらに訪れるときは、私をその前で迎えなさい。
かしこまりました。我が主、愚かなる男の姿を永遠に主の勝利の記念碑といたします。
それは素敵ね。洒落てるわ。 漆喰で塗り固めて美しい純白の石像にするといい。可愛らしくデコなんかもしてくれちゃったら最高ね。
はい、ラムダデルタ卿、ご期待に添えるよう努力します。
おめでとう、魔女就任。一時的なものであれ。私はあなたを友人として迎えるわ。
Erika was so overcome with emotion that tears came to her eyes. Because for a piece, no greater pleasure exists than having your work acknowledged by your master.
最後にはベアとも剥製にしてやりたいわ。そして大広間に高々と飾ってやるの。
白樺ご飯？
人間狩りの伯爵よ。
私、魔女じゃなかった頃にあれを読んで。
Wait, they were referencing something here and I totally missed it. But yeah, I can't figure it out. I don't know my references.
永遠の命を得た
I barely know
人間って
anything.
どうしてここまで残忍になれるんだろうって不思議に思ったことがあるわ。あの時の私は正直共感できなかった。
魔女になって1000年を生きてよくわかるわ。あれの筆者は本当の意味で私たちの残酷さをよく理解していたのよ。
次はどこへ行く？どうせ旅立ちはお互い背中を向けてでしょ。
あなたに退屈をしたくないからよ。
ありがとう、ベルン。でも私はきっと100を数えたらまたあなたを探し始めるわよ。
Yeah, that's just how it
退屈
goes.
させない子ね。だから好きよ。愛してるわ。またどこかで会いましょう。もっとも100年先か1000年先か未来永劫再会しないかもわからないけれど。
大丈夫よ。愛し合う二人にかけらの海は狭いわ。
第三の男？
天井桟敷だってば。
あの星空のように輝く無数のかけらを一つ砕くたびに一晩は退屈の毒から解放されると分かったら、お前だって星の数を数えてみたくなる。
うまいうまい。
The Voyager witches travel across the countless glittering futures of possibility and gobble them up, trying to escape their illness called boredom for as long as they can. See, I knew it was boredom. The tiny fragment created by the human known as Beatrice had now been gobbled up by the two witches, and had lost its glitter. And the two who had earlier called themselves rivals in front of Beato now stopped that charade and laughed together playfully.
エリカ、新しきこのかけらの支配者、あなたが真実を紡ぎ、この世界の終焉までの物語を描きなさい。次は第6のゲームだっけ？
はい、第6のゲームです。
エピソード6はなんてタイトルにするか、もはやこの物語の紡ぎ手でありマスターであるのはあなたなのだから。
ありがとうございます。実はもう決めてあります。
あら、もうなの？なら聞かせてちょうだい。
Because this was the end of the Golden Witch, right?
なんてタイトルなの？
はい、エピソード6。本当はじらしたいんですがお教えします。
何よ、もったいぶらずに教えなさいよ。新米魔女のくせに先輩じらすとかってありえないわ。
Yeah, what is it?
エピソード6、チェックメイト・オブ・ザ・ゴールデン・ウィッチ。
Okay, I think that's fitting, actually. Well, there we have it on that, I suppose. So I guess it's gonna be a whole new game instead of, the continuation, like, you know, what I was kind of predicting in the, end of the previous video. You know, however we go about it, I'm cool with whatever. But there was our tea party, and now we have to go to the question mark scenario. That's always a fun one. This is apparently the one that's, a bit long, but this is our epilogue. This is where whatever is left to get out of episode 5, this is it. This is where we're getting it. Are we in the purple zone for this one? No, we're still hanging out with Battler. In the cathedral devoid of people, a figure could be seen still staring up at the heavens. its chest pierced with a long red sword that pinned it in place to the ground. That figure was Battler. Ironically, it looked just like what he had done to Beato with blue wedges in the 4th game. Battler had died quite some time ago. No, in this place, the concept of death means nothing except that one has stopped thinking. Therefore, in a sense, Battler was not dead. After being defeated in a fight over the truth and surrendering, he no longer had the strength to think of a way to resist. That's what made him dead. Delanor's massive longsword, which had been left in place of a tombstone, fastened Battler to the spot even after his death. I mean, it is quite the sight to just kind of be frozen like that. This was all being lit by a faint light seeping out of an incredibly high skylight. Quiet footsteps rang out across this still cathedral. Oh, it's Beatrice. From the darkness behind a pillar, a woman slowly stepped forward. It was Beatrice, or Beato. I've done horrible at trying to distinguish the two. The one that is kind of, dead herself, or just about, and then the one that we had in the game. Just like they'd been the whole time in the Golden Land, her eyes had no light in them, and were still muddied over with gray. This person was once unable to even drink black tea to her satisfaction by her own will, but though it was slow, and though there was no life in her eyes, she was surprisingly walking. Then, with slow, deliberate steps, she reached Battler, who was still dead, pierced through. Then, she slowly touched Battler. She tugged on his sleeve. However, Battler showed no reaction. When she realized that it wasn't sleep but death, the witch, with the hopeless gaze, let her head hang even lower. Then she quietly whispered,
"Usotsuki."
Beato softly touched Battler. Then she pressed her forehead against Battler's chest. There was no longer any heartbeat. Yeah, he's frozen, basically. It wasn't just because he had surrendered. It was because the witches had chased him from the game board. So from now on, Battler would never return. So from now on, the Golden Witch Beatrice would have no reason to exist.
ありがとう、嘘つき。さよなら。そして。
And, oh. But why are you sorry? For everything you've done, or is there something else going on? Oh no, not the slow fade away. Not the Thanos snap. See, when it's slow like that, it does kind of feel like that in a way. Oh boy. What is left for us here? Then the Golden Witch completed her task and scattered as a spray of gold. Does that pretty much just eliminate the idea of Beatrice just altogether? No more talk of her? No more belief that she could be, behind any murders anywhere, responsible for anything? In the Golden Land, the gray rain gently continued to fall. There was a faint aroma of good black tea. Beato stared blankly at its surface. There was Virgilia continuing her knitting, along with me and Delanor talking to each other. And this is a recollection. A recollection from Battler's memory, which Delanor's sword must have given him as it pierced him. A recollection of that time Delanor had come to visit the tea party in the Golden Land. Yeah, she didn't hold back, that's for sure. Delanor, huh? I thought she was an emotionless killer doll without a heart. But maybe she actually is pretty approachable. Though, of course, neither of us will show any mercy when fighting over the game board. For a while, we gazed at the rain-drenched rose garden as we quietly enjoyed our tea.
しかし恐ろしいもんだな、お前の戦い方は。ノックス10回だったっけか。ミステリーのお約束ってやつだろ。
はい、我が父が考案した戒律です。
Okay, and I think we just got our ability to read all of them. Knox's Decalogue. The Ten Commandments created by Dilliner A. Knox's father and used in heresy trials. Alright, here we go. Knox's first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. Second, it is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. Third, it is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. Fourth, it is forbidden for unknown drugs or obscure scientific devices to be used. The fifth is not included. Sixth, it is forbidden for accident or uncountable intuition to be employed as a detective technique. Seventh, it is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. Eighth, it is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. And that's what got us a few times whenever Battler was trying his hardest, his final bit of desperation. Ninth, observers are permitted to put forward their own conclusions and interpretations. 10th, it is forbidden for a character to disguise themselves as another without any clues. The debate over the interpretation of these laws continues to this very day, and it has become the source of countless unfair controversies. While fundamentalists, call any infringement upon these commandments heresy, revisionists point out that many canonized geniuses have violated these rules.
隠し扉は存在してはならない。ノックス第3条だっけか。だから探偵は隠し扉を探す必要さえないわけだ。なかなかな暴論だな。
Basically, unless it's hinted that there is a hinted that there's a hidden door or passage or something like that previously, there can't be. There just can't be as like a way to get away with things, basically. And that's why alibis could not be constructed with that idea beforehand. Bernka still said it herself. She said that because they were forbidden by Knox's third, even searching for hidden doors was a waste of time. I'd like to counter that by saying it probably isn't so uncommon for a rich family's mansion to have a hidden door or two built into it. But apparently that sort of rule works perfectly well in the mystery genre. By the way, there exist many wonderful mysteries in which hidden doors appear, and where hidden doors are the theme. Of course, this is limited to novels which have the premise that hidden doors exist. If that premise does not exist, hidden doors must not exist. So because that premise does not exist, there is no need to search for hidden doors. I think that's probably the essence of her ridiculous argument. It's like the detective trying to expose the truth, and the illusion trying to confuse it with a mixture of truth and lies, are getting blended together, leading to a bizarre form of argument similar to a devil's proof. Making a closed-room murder seem to be accomplished by a witch with magic is fantasy. Exposing that it was a human's crime done with tricks is anti-fantasy. Examining all possibilities to expose the nature of those tricks is mystery. But is it also mystery to claim that possibilities with no hints supporting them are unworthy of investigation? Let's say a hidden door is hidden in a way that there would be no clues. Would claiming that a hidden door therefore exists even though a detective couldn't find it be anti-mystery? Well, think of it this way. I want to say a clue could be like, there was something that could at least make you think that there's a possibility of a hidden door or passage, not just because rich family with big old mansion must mean hidden door somewhere. But if you look at like a house, for example, your regular everyday house, and, you've spent some time inside of it and everything like that, a couple days or so, but then you notice from the outside that you have not been able to get to a part of the house from inside of it based on the exterior build of it. maybe that is enough of a clue to make you consider that there is a hidden passage or something to then get to that part of the house. There's something that can lead you to that. Not just, oh, I have no idea how this person died, therefore there must be a hidden passage. That's the only thing I can think of, or I guess an example, to kind of make that work. Otherwise, we're kind of restricted that, oh, there can't be a hidden passage just for the sake of there being a hidden passage. It's too easy of an out, you know? I guess you could say, based on Erika's arguments, it's third rate. Well, that's enough of that. This argument is too far of a digression from the riddles I'm actually supposed to be solving. My fight is very simple. I'm only fighting to explain how it was possible for a human to carry out these crimes that were supposedly carried out by a witch. This whole discussion about mystery and ante doesn't serve any purpose. That's why I didn't have any particular interest regarding these rules known as the Nox Decalogue.
ノクスはお嫌いですか？
苦手だな、隠し扉の存在を。調べもせずに全否定可能なんて。悪魔の証明並みにうさんくせえな。ファンタジーの対極のはずなのに。なぜか同じ論法になっちまってる気がするぜ。
I would say, with Nox's rules, let's think of it in a really weird way, and stay with me on this, guys. I might be absolutely way off the mark, or I actually may be onto something. There was the example I gave before that could really work out with Nox's third, but regarding the other rules, with, what is, possible to be investigated, or what can even be considered as a possibility in general for the mystery, consider something like shonen. Shonen anime. We have all these really cool shows and manga and all that have come about over the past few decades, but I feel like a lot of them are actually really guilty of pulling things out of their ass. Like things are going in such a way, but then either through the power of friendship or because they have this ability that we've never seen on screen or in a panel or referenced whatsoever before, and is now being used by the main character or something like that. Just something that can give an edge to one side when it feels like, well, hold on now, where is this even coming from? I want to say that is another way to kind of describe where the Nox rules are coming from and what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to keep things grounded, believable, and not in a way that makes it so like you can't figure it out. Everything has to be presented to you in some sort of way, and then you can kind of take that and then meld it into something, That's a way that I can kind of think of it. But, let me know your guys' thoughts, obviously, without getting into the nitty-gritty and spoilers and all that. But any examples and anything, or if I'm really off the mark, like I said I might be, I might just be a little stupid up there. Let me know. Let's all get on the same page here.
お前の親父が作ったんだもんな。
お気になさらずに戯れに過ぎないとおっしゃる方もいらっしゃいますので。
バトラ君には実会はかなり傲慢なものに感じられるのでしょう。
正直なところを言えばな、隠し扉は存在してはいけないから調べる必要さえないなんて、頭のネジが落ちてないかどうか一緒に床を探してやるところだぜ。
ではバトラー、その第3条をなかったことにしましょう。そうなったら密室ミステリーはどうなるでしょうか。
What if Nox's third, hidden doors are forbidden, didn't exist?
つまり密室トリックのオチに隠し扉が OK になるってことか。
手がかりや伏線のある隠し扉ではありません。隠しなのですから、無論探偵にも発見できない隠し扉です。
バトラ君はよく悪魔の証明により発見できない X の存在を仮定して戦いますね。つまりはそういうことですよ。
最悪だな、密室ミステリーが読み物として破綻しちまう。
And if it were no longer worth anyone's time, it would cease to exist. No one would want to try solving the riddle from the beginning. Not if they knew the answer might just be an unforeseeable hidden door.
せめて隠し扉はありませんと保証してもらってからじゃないと推理する気も起きない。なるほど。ノックス第3条は必要だな。それがなけりゃ密室ミステリーは読み物にもなりゃしねえ。
推理する気も起きないとはつまりどういうことですか？
つまり読む気もしねえってことだな。
そういうことです。人間は推理可能だという保証を得なければ思考さえできないか弱い生き物なのです。
推理可能、すなわち頑張れば解けますよという励ましが必要なのです。
Yeah, I mean, I guess I get it in that vein where, okay, let's say a body was hidden away. There was a hidden door in the servant room that Genji's body was put into, and he was stashed away. Well, how do we find that? There's absolutely no clues or evidence of there being a hidden door in that room. You can search all the rooms in the mansion. You can search all throughout the island, but he's right under your nose. But we can't just spend all of our time, taking out the screws and pulling the boards out from the floor and tearing down the walls and everything just to find a hidden door, The time and energy can be used elsewhere. And it's just highly unlikely in a lot of cases, in a lot of situations, for there to be a hidden door or a hidden room or something. So I kind of get it. You want things to be possible. And even so, this story has been ridiculous from the perspectives that we've been given. It's all been possible. I think people have told me countless times the epitaph has always been solvable, that the mystery can be figured out all in one go. People talked back whenever I was recording episode 1 about how, their perspective is entirely changed because they've already gone through all the episodes of this title, which means everything from the beginning has been, in a way, possible to figure out. But if a hidden door passage was actually used, sure, you can throw that prediction out there, but how did you get to it? Where is it? It creates more problems of trying to get to that point instead of an actual mystery to get to that point. I might have explained it incorrectly, but I think I'm able to grasp onto what they're throwing out here and why there is a rule against this. That might be true. It's the same with exercising. If you're told to run around the campus 10 times, you can tough it out. However, if you don't know how many times you're supposed to run around it, you'd probably get tired out before you made it around 3 times. The same thing goes for thinking and reasoning. Humans view a problem differently, depending on whether or not it's guaranteed to be solvable.
推理小説で探偵が犯人が分かったと宣言するシーンがあるでしょ。あれはつまりそこまでの文章で手がかりは全て記したから、読者諸君どうぞ推理をしてくださいという合図なのですよ。
へえ、単なるお約束のセリフかと思ってたが、そんな意味があったんだな。
意地悪に言うと、探偵がそう宣言しない限り、どんなにミステリーを愛する推理自慢の読者であっても、推理をする気力は生じないということです。
過去のゲームにおけるあなたもそうではありませんでしたか？
Now that I hear it, maybe that really was the case. Maybe my fight against Beato really began in the second game. At first, I didn't seriously try to tackle the closed room riddles Beato threw at me. After all, I knew nothing except that people had died in a closed room, and the windows and doors were all locked from the inside. I mean, seriously, talk about having no hints to go on. So I refused to argue on the grounds that I couldn't fight, because the lack of clues made reasoning impossible. After that, didn't Beato sneer at me, asking whether I would repeat that over and over forever in an endless repetition of moves? At that time, Beato said this.
貴様ら無能どもがいつも嘆いてみせる思考停止の理由、そしてそれに対し情報を与えると、今度はその情報の真偽を疑う根拠否定。便利よな。 無能を棚上げする実に小気味よい言葉よ。
Then she said that she'd give me certain information that couldn't be denied, and created the rule called the Red Truth. Once we reached that point, the curtain finally rose on my battle with Beato.
俺はベアトにこの物語は挑めば解けるという保証をもらって初めて同じ土俵に上がったというわけか。
ベアトリーチェ、不思議な方です。謎こそが魔女の住まう狭間なのに、自らその謎を暴くことのできる赤き真実をあなたに与え始めたのですね。
But as we've seen in this game, it can work in a completely flipped direction. It can also create a way for riddles to be a lot more difficult to solve, because what we have here, from our perspective as the reader, is we have a situation where things are not going the correct direction and we need to steer it back either towards the false direction or the true direction. And we couldn't figure it out. The Red Truth actually worked against us in a way that we couldn't get things back on track. It worked against us. It tightened the riddles. You could say the Red Truth is a hint Beato gives me so that I can compete in this war of reasoning. Like Candy. Because I've been given hints, it's like she's saying, try and solve it, for it can be solved. An enigma that's guaranteed to be solvable can't be called a true enigma.
これではまるでベアト自身が自分は本当は魔女じゃないって自分で認めてるようなものじゃないか。
おやおや、確かにそうなりますね。本当におかしな子です。
I was gonna say it's probably less that she's, a real witch, but more that she's a witch with more empathy than we can really imagine. Or that she has some other goal in mind, and she's had another goal in mind since the beginning. Beato gave no answer. With gray eyes, she did nothing but blankly gaze at the steam rising from her black tea.
我が父は思考する力に杖を与えるために実戒を生み出したのです。決して物事を傲慢に決めつけるためではありません。
思考する力に杖。
そうです。ノックス第8条。提示されない手がかりでの解決を禁ず。これは手がかりなしに当て推量で推理をしてはいけないという意味だけではありません。
逆に言えば、出題者は解決のための手がかりを必ず提示しなければならないということです。
つまり実戒に従うなら全ての謎には必ずヒントがあり、よって必ず解決は可能だと保証されていることになるわけか。
I see. So this is what they mean by a crutch for the power of thinking. If you can believe that it's solvable, you start wanting to have a go at those riddles. If you're capable of believing that hints do exist, you get fired up about rereading the story to search for them. I mean, what do you think I'm gonna go do? I'm gonna go back through my videos.
推理しようとする人間にとって勇気を与える力はあるかもしれないな。
ノックス実戒はミステリーの出題者に課す制限と思われがちですが、読み手にとっても大切なものなのです。実戒を杖とすることで私たちは推理する勇気と必ず隠されているに違いない手がかりを求めて何度も物語を読み返す気力を授かるのです。
硬くて開かないジャム瓶の蓋みたいだな。母さんがよく言ってたぜ。開かないと思ってるといくら頑張っても開かないって。
Yeah, I mean, you have to have belief in yourself.
スポーツにもそういうのあるよな。
However, I'm a pessimist, so I have doubts and then surprise myself.
必ず自分は成し遂げられるという強いイメージがあるのとないのでは記録に大きく差が出るというし。
In that case, the Nox Decalogue isn't really a set of arrogant and strict restrictions. You can also see it as a way to encourage readers who are trying to solve the mystery by telling them to give it their all since it's definitely solvable.
面白い解釈だ。しかし世の中の推理小説すべてが 必ず実戒を守ってるわけでもないと聞いたぜ。そういう作品にぶち当たった時、騙されたってことにはならないのかよ。
実戒もまた解釈の一つに過ぎず、全てのミステリーに適用できるものではありません。父の原理主義者の方々は実戒を破った作品を異端と呼んで激しく糾弾される方もいらっしゃるようですが。
There's no end of arguments like this in the mystery world. Was this or that famous detective novel really a fair mystery? In other words, one that followed Knox's Decalogue? That sort of argument is already an eternal theme of the mystery world. In fact, in mystery discussions, arguments like these sometimes become even more heated than discussion of the actual tricks.
そりゃ糾弾したくもなるだろうな。実戒に従い、解けると信じて挑んで。実は解けるようにできてませんでしたってオチだったら。
That's right. When fighting with the Decalogue, there's just one thing you want guaranteed from the beginning. In other words, you want to guarantee that this detective novel will adhere to the Decalogue. If a work labels itself as an orthodox mystery, then you have nothing to worry about. However, the mystery genre contains many unorthodox subgenres within it. Does that mean trying to use reasoning in an unorthodox detective novel is a complete waste of time?
それはそれで傲慢な気もするな。
はい、私も父の実戒をそのような傲慢の武器にされるのは非常に悲しいことです。
お前は実戒を武器にさっきベアトと戦ったわけだが、それはつまりこのベアトのゲームの世界がノックス実戒にのっとっているという証なのか。
So this is actually a very important question. Has the game always utilized Knox's Decalogue? Because if it has, well, now I've got a crutch to actually utilize as I go back in time and revisit some specific moments that I really want to revisit in my videos. Again, that's what I do plan on doing. I want to go back and I want to see, well, now that I have some knowledge from what we gained, like especially at the end of episode 4, like with Kinzo not being around, I might be able to start questioning even more things and maybe breaking down some of the questions I've had before. When I asked that, there was a strange silence. Virgilia, Delanor, and of course Beato all remained silent for a while, almost as though my question had touched at the core of something.
それは私の口からは言えません。
God damn it, man, I need a yes or no.
どうして？
これはこの子の作ったゲームです。あなたと勝敗を決めるためのゲーム。この子はそれをミステリーとファンタジーの対決のように呼んでいました。しかし残念ながら本格推理とは一言も言っていません。すなわち実戒にのっとっているという保証はないということです。
I mean, I had a feeling in a way that it probably didn't fully, but she was always giving these hints. I'm sure if I went back and I gathered up all the red text that she spewed out, all these truths that she gave us, we might be able to put something together, especially with what we have now.
しかし同時にミス・ベアトリーチェはあなたとの勝負のゲームだともおっしゃっています。それはすなわちあなたにも勝利する余地があるということ。
すなわち推理は可能だってそう言いたいのか。
I want to say so.
この子に言わせればおそらく推理は可能となるのでしょう。しかしこの子とバトラ君が送り手と受け手の関係であるように2人は異なる存在です。ベアトにとって推理可能なつもりで出題したものがあなたにとっても推理可能なものなのかは別の問題です。
For example, let's say we propose a simple riddle that any Japanese person would know. However, if the person we're telling this riddle to is a foreigner with a Japanese to English dictionary in their hand, well, it might be almost impossible to solve. In other words, it's possible to have a one-sided solvable problem, which might be easy for the questioner but extremely difficult for the person trying to solve it. That's kind of the situation that we're in. I've said it before, it feels like every episode we're introduced to more and more bullshit, more and more characters that we've never seen before, but that's probably because it makes sense on the other end of it. For us, coming in with no knowledge of how witches work, whatever this without love, it cannot be seen bullshit that we were originally told in the beginning, the potential for, people to become witches or to have the ability to utilize magic or whatever, we really walked into all of this with none of that information at all. Or really who these characters all were deep down. We learned more about these characters as we went along. And by the way, do you know of the foreign riddle? Why do dragons sleep all day? The answer is to battle the night. It's a riddle from the English realm, so it might be a little tough for a Japanese person.
だからこそ私はこの物語がバトラ君に絶対に解けるものだと約束することができません。しかしこれだけは約束できます。赤き真実でそれを保証します。
なんだ？
ベアとはあなたに解いてほしいと願って解けるようにこのゲームを、この物語の謎を生み出しました。それだけは私が赤き真実で保証します。
Okay. I feel like we were told something like this before. It was the one guarantee that all those who tried to use reasoning desire. There's an answer you can achieve.
我が父の実戒にのっとり導き出せるものかは分かりません。しかし、バトラが悩み、苦しみ、推理の指針を求めるときにもしも思い出したなら、我が実戒も試してみてください。再び挑む勇気と、ひょっとすると何か新しい発見を与えてくれるかもしれません。
ありがとうよ。心底行き詰まったらお前の戦い方も参考にしてみるぜ。いいのかよ。敵に塩を送っちまって。
お気になされずに、手土産も持たずに訪れた茶会です。茶花の代わりとなったなら幸いです。それに私と再び相まみえたなら、そんな悠長なことを言っている暇はおそらくないでしょうから。
No, you definitely kill this man. That does happen. Nox's Decalogue and Virgilia's Red Truth.
ベアとは俺に解いてほしいと願って解けるようにこのゲームの謎を生み出した。
In other words, Beato wants me to be capable of solving it. Isn't that proof that reasoning is possible? Of course, that's from Beato's point of view. And it doesn't necessarily mean that reasoning is possible for me. Compared to before now, when I didn't even know whether reasoning was possible or not, that one line might give me a great deal of courage. At least it has the power to silence any negative thoughts about this all being useless.
推理できると先に相手に証明させなくては推理をしない。まるで奥手な若者の恋愛のようですね。
恋愛？
ええ、自分のことを愛してくれると相手が先に証明しない限り、自分も相手を愛したくない。でしょ？
Honestly, yeah, something like that. Both boys and girls want to hear someone else say they love them first. That's their dream. If they're in love, they don't want to love the other person until they're sure this person loves them back. After all, there's nothing as painful as a one-sided love, and the scars of the heart left behind last a long time. Yeah. Because they are afraid of that pain, they want proof that the other person loves them first more than anything else.
なるほど。推理小説における作家と読者の関係を面白く表現しています。
Yeah. Maybe you could liken detective novels to that. Both the writer and the reader first want the other party to say that they'll solve it, or that it can be solved. Until the writer is assured that the reader will certainly have a go at the riddle, if they propose it, well, they don't want to write their story. The same goes for the readers. Until they are assured that they will certainly be able to solve the riddle if they try, well, they don't want to read the story. Because they don't want to write what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when no one reads it. Because they don't want to reason about what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when they realize it was all useless.
その理論によると、まさに奥手な小学生中学生の恋愛だな。気があるくせに打ち明ける勇気もなく、相手のもじもじしたまま何の進展もなく、ひと夏が終わる。いやいや、他の男とくっついちまうことだってあるぜ。俺の初恋もそんな感じだったさ。
That's rough, buddy. That is rough. Along with these one-sided feelings they can't express, they lament the passage of a summer that will never come again, and the days of their youth end. The writer, who wouldn't write until he gained the support of readers, goes for all eternity without releasing his maiden work. The reader who waited for the writer's rise to fame goes their whole life without knowing the joy of the mystery genre.
バトラ君、その卵が先か鶏が先かという奥手な恋愛はどの段階にまで進んだら相思相愛の関係になるのですか？
それは積み重ねだろうな。まず友達関係から始めてコミュニケーションを増やし、こいつはきっと俺のことが好きで疑えなくなった段階を2人が共有できたところで、まあ多分自然と恋人関係に進めるんじゃないかと。唐突な告白で始まった関係は割と別れることも多いが、実は互いに告白したことがなく、気づいたらずっと一緒にいたって連中の方が案外付き合いは長いってのが俺の今日までの印象だ。
つまり互いが相手を信じる信頼関係が生まれたらということ。
意外だぜ。ミステリーってのは作家と読者のバトルだと思ってたんだが。
Didn't mean to skip you there, by the way, Delanor. My apologies.
互いが信頼し合った上でしか成立しない愛ある関係なのですよ。
Remember what they say about love. Without it,
じゃあこいつと俺の関係も殺し合いじゃなくて愛ある関係だっていうのかよ。
意地悪をし合う小学生同士の関係程度にしか見えませんがね。
hey, sometimes you gotta bully the person you like the most. You know, if you're a child, but Virgilia joked at us in a middle-aged woman sort of way. Still, though I'm not expecting friendship or a trusting relationship, I can accept her as a rival. Beato is fighting at full force, trying to make me acknowledge that she is a witch. So I'll respond to that and go all out, trying to deny that witches exist.
ミス・ベアトが正面から全力であなたにぶつかっている。どうしてあなたは言い切れるのですか？
見てりゃわかるだろ。
あなたに全力で正面からぶつかっていると彼女が赤き真実で宣言したわけではありません。なのにあなたはそれを疑わないわけですか？赤き真実以外は何も信じないとおっしゃったあなたがです。
バトラ君の言うところのコミュニケーションが増えたというものに違いないですね。
Virgilia and Delanor giggled together. What is with these cat-like looks that we've been getting from Delanor and Erika? One guy, multiple women, and the topic is love. Wait a sec. Isn't this the worst possible formation for getting made fun of? It is. When you're like the only guy and there's other women around. Horrible. Horrible. But if it's like a bunch of guys or whatever, it's like, all right, you know, chill time, whatever, you know, maybe just eat the fact that you are being made fun of and just kind of work with it or whatever. Use it as material. And when I tried to bring back a proper mood for a tea party in the rainy Golden Land by clumsily searching for a more noble subject, Virgilia saw right through me and laughed. Even amidst this, Beato kept looking downwards with those gray eyes, staring into her black tea. See, this whole, moment here would have been nice to have before going into Battler getting his ass kicked, but whatever. Yeah, that's right. Virgilia and Delanor have given me so many hints, and yet I barely thought about it at all. We have gotten a lot of hints here. going back to whenever we first met Vergilia back in episode 3, her telling us about, you know, the fact that we kind of perceive, or what we perceive is basically our truth until we go in and, you know, really figure things out. By now, it's all too late. Let me think. Now that everything is too late already and I've got an endless amount of time on my hands, let me think. One more time, let me think about the red truth Vergilia gave me. Okay, before we get into thinking about that, I think we'll wrap it up on that one. And yeah, we'll continue along with the epilogue scenario here in the next video, since this is already a bit of a long one, as the previous videos kind of all have been, as I'm trying to really get through episode 5 here. But a lot to consider here. I think this was a constructive one, I want to say. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll get back to it in the next one. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.